Welcome to Outback Outdoors. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click the alert to stay up to date on all our new videos.
What's up guys, Cory from Outback Outdoors here, making another video on how to master your camera. Today's video we're going over ISO. ISO is essentially a way to create light in your image. It's the sensitivity of the sensor to light. Now 100 is typically the lowest that you can go. That's the least sensitive to light. It's also going to be your cleanest and most crisp picture. So when you turn that ISO up to create more light and get your image exposed correctly, you sacrifice a little bit of quality, meaning that your image is going to look a little bit grainier. So let's just jump on the camera here, or jump on the screen here and you can see what I'm talking about. So right here, this is shot at ISO 100. You can see everything looks nice and beautiful and clean. And now we're going to have the same exact image, but now this ISO is turned way up. I made some other adjustments in camera to get rid of light to force us to turn that ISO up without getting too bright. And you can see how it's really grainy now. Think of this as you're basically making each pixel a little bit bigger to make it more sensitive to light, and because you made it bigger, now it's more visible. Not the biggest deal on small screens, but as you get to bigger screens, it's very, very noticeable. So if you want to make that beautiful cinematographic image, you want to try to keep your ISO as low as possible, adjusting everything else in camera. For example, use your aperture, open it wide, let more light in. That allows you to keep your ISO down. With your shutter speed, you're kind of stuck to your 180-degree shutter rule unless you want to break it a little bit, and that's going to limit the amount of light coming in, so you have to use your ISO to adjust for it. Every camera is a little bit different. With the Sonys that we're using, you can get away with quite a bit higher ISO than you have been able to in the past. The only way you're going to know what's acceptable for you and your setup is to go experiment. Set up your camera, run it through some different ISOs, look at that footage and see when your grain starts to appear and what you deem acceptable for the project that you're working on. Once again, I'll reiterate, the lower you can keep that ISO, the more clean and clear that picture is going to look. You can get away with a little bit there creating light with your ISO, but just be careful that you don't get up too high. The inverse of this is if it's too bright. I have my f-stop set where I want it to be, 2.8, so I can have nice clear portrait image where the background's that creamy bokeh, following my 180-degree shutter roll. If you're not sure about that, check out the aperture video. And my ISO is down all the way to 100. I can't darken it anymore by turning my ISO down. So an ND filter is a fantastic option. What an ND filter does is it stops the light down. This is a variable one. It stops it down 2 to 7 stops. So it essentially darkens your image, lets less light in. And you can darken by 2 stops up to 7 stops. And that's if it's outside really, really bright and you want to make sure that you can get your image exposed correctly with everything else that you're using. Now when you're setting this up in your camera, in your filming situations as you're trying to document this hunt, the ISO is typically what I touch last. I want to make sure my shutter speed is as close to being appropriate as possible. I'm picking my f-stop based on what I want to create in this image, whether I want a long focal depth or I want that short focal depth, whatever helps the story I'm trying to tell, and then I'll adjust my ISO to get that image how I want it to be. Now, if I'm getting too high or I'm bottomed out in my ISO, then I'll jump to the other things to create this appropriate exposure. Thanks for watching, guys. Let us know what questions you have or what comments you have about all this information we're giving you to help document and film your hunts. Like and subscribe and check out the next video. Thank you.
Thanks for watching Outback Outdoors. We encourage you to comment below, and as always, like, subscribe, and click the alert to stay up to date on all our new videos.